Hey everyone!
Hey Riley!
So if you've been on the internet at all in the last couple of weeks, you've probably seen a lot of discussions about civility in politics.
Yes, I have. And I cannot believe we've gotten this far, or this is where we've gotten to. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, just stay tuned.
Anyway, how did civility become the recent thing that everyone is talking about? Well, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Trump's press secretary, went to a restaurant called the Red Hen. The owner knew that Sanders' presence made a lot of her staffers uncomfortable, so she asked them all what she should do, and they voted to ask Sanders to leave.
Which was wrong.
Soon after, she started complaining on Twitter from her official government account about how she was asked to leave the Red Hen. Obviously, the people who worship the Trump administration regardless of what they do were quick to jump to her defense. They asked where all the civility had gone and why Sanders was being treated differently just for political views.
Yeah, why? Also, did you guys hear what she said? Something about regardless of what they do. Kind of like she was saying, oh, as if they don't have anything better to do. It sounds like a slug to me.
They began harassing not only the Red Hen restaurant in Virginia where Sanders went, but several other completely unaffiliated Red Hen restaurants in places like DC, Connecticut, and New Jersey.
Yeah, here it sounds like she's trying to say they attacked these other restaurants that had nothing to do with it because they were just being mean, but they attacked those other restaurants by accident or out of confusion because the name Red Hen and an actual chicken as your mascot is kind of generic.
Then, California Representative Maxine Waters urged people to push back against members of the Trump cabinet and, quote, tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
See here, Riley is leaving something out on purpose. Maxine Waters encourages people to mob and disrupt the lives of Trump supporters. You know, bother them at their houses with megaphones or verbally attack them and mob around them at gas stations. Yeah, Riley really left that out.
When she got death threats from the Trump supporters who apparently want civility, she got on stage at the Families Belong Together rally in LA and said, if you shoot me, you better shoot straight. There's nothing like a wounded animal. And can we all just take a second to appreciate Maxine Waters?
No, we can't.
She is a 79-year-old black woman. I cannot imagine the shit she's gone through.
Exactly. She's 80 years old, meaning she's more than likely lived through a lot worse than this. She was there. Being told to drink bleach is a lot. I would rather face that than Klan's people running down the street, you know? You know who else was there? MLK. And he was like, hey, all this impoliteness is not okay. So I'm really confused. How could Maxine Waters get that twisted?
So all of this has culminated in Republicans getting to act all high and mighty, pretending to be the most civil people on the planet, while Democrats are debating if it's okay to be a little rude to Trump's administration.
See, here's the thing. Republicans don't really care about being high and mighty. The only people who really care about morality like that are Democrats. And that's why this whole act mean towards people who disagree with me thing is so hypocritical and so confusing.
Let's talk about this in 3 parts. Number 1, the Republican Party doesn't get any sort of high ground when it comes to civility. For as long as I can remember, Republicans and conservatives have mocked political correctness and made it a point to go out of their way to offend and insult people.
See, the thing with this is Republicans push back against political correctness. They're not actively trying to offend you, but to enforce political correctness means to police what people are saying. There's literally a clause written about that, and once again, I don't see how you guys are getting this twisted. You being insulted is kind of just a byproduct of them saying whatever they want to say, or them having the freedom to say whatever they want to say, and that's on you.
Conservative icon and piece of horseshit sculpted vaguely in the shape of a human, Jordan Peterson, made a whole career out of not being civil towards trans people by not using their correct pronouns.
Once again, Jordan Peterson, he's only pushing back against political correctness and you trying to police him and tell him what to do. You think he's gonna curl up into a ball and whine and cry because you called him a mean name? Probably not. It's up to the person getting offended. See, I respect pronouns, but I will not refer to you as some crazy made-up word that you're going to abandon in a couple of years.
Trump openly mocked a disabled reporter early on in his campaign, showing a major lack of civility, and Republicans still backed him.
Yeah, I heard that wasn't true, but I didn't look into it because I didn't really care. So I'm just going to let Riley have this one. I'm not 100% a fan of the guy anyway.
He encouraged his supporters to beat up protesters at his rallies, going as far as to say he'd pay their legal fees, and Republicans still backed him. He word for word said, if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you?
Yeah, throwing something at somebody is an actual, act of violence. It's an actual display of incivility. The person who punches whoever's throwing something at somebody is trying to protect the well-being of another human being, and it's just reactionary, which is kind of the deal with Miss Huckabee.
Republicans have the gall to pretend that they have civility? And it's especially ironic for me personally, since I've had so many conservatives in my mentions for the last couple years telling me to kill myself, insulting me, misgendering me, dead-naming me, and now all of a sudden they want civility? They want to be treated with a kindness they've never afforded anyone else because life is just so hard for them.
It's not about kindness. Here you go with morality again, when morality has little to no place in politics. Only Democrats care about being nice. Being nice and being polite are two different things. You can be nice, or excuse, you can be polite without being nice. It's a thing. It's called being passive aggressive.
That's just hilarious. I can't do anything but laugh at that.
But you made a whole video about it though.
And now that the tables have turned, they want everyone to be unwaveringly kind to them no matter what. Nah, sorry, it doesn't work like that.
You're right. It doesn't work like that. It's not about being kind. It's about having some manners.
Conservatives are unable to see the simplest of power imbalances. The press secretary has a lot of power. The owner of a restaurant, less so. When the owner of a restaurant doesn't let the press secretary eat there, it's a nudge at the powers in charge. It's a tiny bit of fighting back against the established power structures. When the press secretary swats back with the full force of her audience, she's hitting back 1,000 times harder because there's a clear power imbalance.
Yeah, there was a power imbalance back in MLK times. And you know what he and other black people did? They rose above it. I don't see how you can't rise above it. Nobody's lynching you guys. They're just calling you a dude. Republicans rise up against being fired, ousted by their family, having food thrown at them, etc., etc.
The government, the agency that's overwhelmingly in control and in power compared to the owner of a restaurant, is directing its followers at a restaurant that slightly inconvenienced it. The one with more power in this situation, the Trump administration, is hitting back way too hard.
What was she supposed to do? Just lay there and take it? Of course she would fight back because that was the wrong thing to do. You can't get upset because she hit you back. That's weak, yo. You not being able to rise above it and take it is on you.
Which kind of brings me to my next point. Number 2, denying an individual service because you disapprove of how they're destroying families, killing migrants, and defending a fascist regime is different than denying an entire group of marginalized people service simply because of who they are.
So the points get a little shorter from here, but we've mostly gotten through the main argument she wanted to make. But no, they're not different. Or at least they're not very different. You shouldn't be turning anyone away. I don't care what reason you're turning them away. That's only skin off your own bones. And if you're old enough to run a business, you're probably old enough that you have a family. And you know what it takes to run families? You know what you don't get when you turn people away from your business? The only people who whine and complain about the repercussions of them turning people away is Magic Mirror when they turn somebody away for political reasons. And that was dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. I don't...
And number 3, any Democrats who are out here calling for more civility and more getting along with Republicans can fuck right off.
Did you hear that? If you don't think 100% like me, you're just as bad as the enemy? How cultish. What's it like in that echo chamber of yours?
Those people are complicit in the Trump administration's actions.
So MLK was just laying down and taking it? What about the little kids that got sprayed with fire truck water and got up and didn't do anything about it? They were just laying down and taking it? Do you realize what you're saying?
They think it's kinda bad, but not enough to warrant being rude over. And everyone has a line that can be crossed that will make them stop being civil.
Yes, but where is your line? You're all for acting crazy just because somebody misgendered you, but you called me a transphobe because I don't date trans people, and you called other black people peasants. I'll add some context because I'm not Riley and dishonest, so I don't leave the stuff out. She called black people peasants because we don't have the power to rise up against white people, which is why we need to be coddled and protected. Because white people are apparently kings and queens, and black people are peasants. But, you know, that's insanely racist anyway. But here I am, I'm still willing to talk it out with you despite the things you called me and other people who aren't 100% on your side.
The Trump administration will keep pushing the Overton window further and further to the right.
Wait, what's the Overton window?
The Overton window, by the way, is the ideas that are considered mainstream or normal in a society. In the US, the Overton window has been a bit further to the right than most other places in the world, meaning that what we see as the centrist position is actually more right-wing to most people outside the US.
Ah, gotcha. That's also wrong. Other countries have immigration laws, and when you move in, you kind of have to blend in. They want you to blend in. But only 27 out of, and that's a generous number, by the way, only 27 out of 195 countries legalize gay marriage. So, why do you think America isn't liked so much? Because of the freedom here.
But Trump is pushing the Overton window even further and further to the right, and soon extremely horrific far-right ideas that once would have never been politically viable are going to be considered okay.
Well, yeah, whoever's in charge, the general view they have will kind of be what's just the general view. That's kind of just how things work. But imagine if leftists were in power. You'd be able to get fired or physically attacked simply for disagreeing with people.
Sometimes stopping fascism means being rude or uncivil. Sometimes fascists can't be stopped any other way.
Yeah, but what you're talking about is conservatism, which is completely different from fascism. Anything to the right of you, you think is fascism, which isn't right or true. These final remarks kind of seem to be getting at a domino effect kind of thing she's saying, which, yeah, it's kind of true, but I seriously doubt that it's going to revert so backwards and undo decades of work. I really just doubt that's going to happen. So, I'm going to finish this off with a bottom line statement. 50, 60 years ago, Dr. Martin Luther King fought against racism by not fighting fire with fire. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to me saying this, but I have siblings, and when we were younger, we would fight. When my parents finally, broke everything up, who caught an earful? Anybody involved. Because we were taught 2 wrongs don't make a right. If you are so high and mighty and so moral, then why don't you turn the other cheek and rise above this person that's being so terrible to you? I don't get it. I really don't get how you can turn your nose up to the teachings of one of the greatest icons of the civil rights movement. Probably the best icon of the civil rights movement. I don't get it. I really don't. It serves your purpose better to just be respectful, mind your manners, don't be a dick, and I don't know, that's really it.